My family is in Rafah. They're currently sheltering in Al Mawasi, which was originally dubbed a safe zone, but not so safe because it has been struck several times over the last 4 months. They're living in a tent at the moment. And now they're having to make the decision again for the sixth time in the last 5 months as to whether to leave and to leave where. There's no more place to go. There's no more area to go to, and they have no idea where to pack up their tent and go to. And I think, it's just this idea that your sense of security is completely eroded. There's no, you are completely terrified and in terror at all times. And also the sense of stability. These people have been displaced several times, including my family. Each time that you're displaced, it's like you're living the horror for the first time. It really, and it feels like for us as well as relatives here, kind of waiting to see what's going to happen, what decisions they're going to make. It also feels like we're living the displacement one more time again. So it's just this re-traumatizing each time that you have to make this huge decision because there is nowhere safe to go. And the implications of having a Rafah military offensive right now by the Israeli military will have a huge impact in terms of mass casualties. We're talking about atrocity crimes being committed in Gaza. We're talking about starvation being used as a weapon of war. And we have an ICJ decision that was very clear in terms of the entry of aid and, the risk of genocide being plausible and happening in Gaza. Therefore, states, not only does Israel have the clear duties and obligations, but member states have also duties and obligations to ensure that Israel is abiding by those obligations under international law and by the order of the ICJ. What has happened in the last couple of days in Rafah, may amount to a grave breach of that order and of its duties and obligations to the civilian population in Gaza. Yep. We cannot see more war crimes being committed in Gaza. It will have an absolutely devastating effect in terms of mass killings.
Israel says it's going to provide a plan to evacuate people at risk. How credible is that? And as you say, where is the likely replacement of these people going to be?
I mean, I ask you and Israel the same question. There has been no safe evacuation plan to date. My family has not been safe in any of the 4 times that they've been displaced. And each time they've been asked to go to a certain area, it's been targeted. So it's clear that no safe evacuation plan has ever been put in place by Israel. And I don't expect for a safe evacuation plan for 1.5 million people, half of which are children. I mean, I don't think we understand the immensity of how many people that actually means. Where are they supposed to go to, especially knowing that the north has been completely decimated? There's no civilian infrastructure left for actually to even welcome that amount of people. So, it's like chasing rats in a cage that are trapped in a cage and they're just running around in circles trying to find a safe haven, which doesn't exist.
What sort of aid are you able to provide at this point in time, in any event, to those people who are, as you say, like your family, living in tents, and there are hundreds and hundreds of thousands of them living in those conditions right now?
I mean, unfortunately, Bev, we would love to be able to deliver much more aid because we're talking about the needs of 2 million people on a daily basis that need to be met. So even the rich, families of Gaza, they used to come from, rich entrepreneur families who had businesses. They are also out of a job and out of salary and are living in extreme dire conditions. So, we're talking about an immense need here that the humanitarian response simply cannot respond to meaningfully when all the trucks are being scanned, goods are being denied, there are delays. There's been the protests stopping trucks from entering. So the delivery aid is still too slow, still not enough. Still a drop in the ocean. And Oxfam tries, we have a big wash. We work in water and wastewater infrastructure. So, for example, we were trying to get a desalination plant operated, but now because of the Rafah, implications of potential bombardments happening, we don't know if we should install this desalination plant at the risk of it being, demolished without even operating. But we also, have small distributions of fruit and veg, whatever we can source in the market. We try to deliver through our local partners, trusted partners that we work with that know the community, that know the beneficiaries. We also, for example, have been distributing clothes for women and children, and also protection kits and hygiene kits. So that's what we've been doing so far, but at too little and not enough, and not as much as we would usually in such a response.
Yeah, and that's what I was going to ask you. You know, you've lived through so many of these situations, these crises. Does this compare to anything that you have been involved with before?
Never. It's unprecedented humanitarian crisis in comparison to all places around the world. We have a team that has worked in all, in the hardest, most difficult contexts around the world in different, conflicts in the last 10 years. Every single person, including Martin Griffiths and Antonio Gutierrez, this is unprecedented. We have never seen such a humanitarian catastrophe unfold so rapidly as well before our eyes. And, with nothing changing, things are getting worse every single day on the ground. And people are now dying of starvation, dehydration. We have babies sucking on dates and walnuts because there's no milk or formula or clean water to mix the formula. It's just...
And the United Nations tonight has just again warned. You talk about this incredible impact on your family as a microcosm of this. But the children, the UN warning tonight that this is just a trauma that they will not recover from. In your experience, is that the case?
Absolutely. I used to work for another organization before, and we had commissioned a report after the 2021 war on Gaza on children and their mental health. And what we found was that 4 out of 5 children did not have any hope in the future after the 2021 war. What sense of hope and what sense of dreams do they have now with a completely decimated Gaza, with no schools to go to, with no university to look forward to? And that as a child and as a young person, to dream, this is every parent's dream is to give all the options to your children. And that just doesn't exist. You're living the day, trying to survive the day. There is no more hope for a future. It's just, I hope to live to see tomorrow. Yeah. That is children's hope. And it's extremely devastating.
Yeah, Bushra, we feel for your family and for you to be so connected to that day in and day out. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me.